So I apologize because I have forgotten all the German I have learned at school, so I will speak in English. I could have chosen French, but I think that very few people speak French nowadays, so I prefer to speak in English. I will make a presentation about the SACD's practice towards the online exploitation of the audiovisual works. First, I will remind you what SACD manage. It's a collecting society, a collective management organization in France, which is in charge of managing the works, the audiovisual works, on behalf of screenwriters and directors of series and films. We also manage the right for stage works, theater, which is originally the function of SACD, which was created in the 18th century by Beaumarchais in order to collect the rights at the Comédie Française and other theater which didn't pay the right to the authors. Since then, SACD has evolved, and today we collect 257,000 million euros. It's the last figures of 2022. And 30% is for stage work, theater, and 70% for audiovisual works, TV works, works on platforms, and also feature films. The basis of our legal basis of our intervention is the fact that audiovisual authors, when they become members of SACD, entrust SACD with the right of reproduction and the right of communication to the public. And so we normally have the exclusive right to collect and distribute the remuneration to our authors. Theoretically, it's for the whole world, but in practice, we mainly manage on certain territories. We have two different kind of territories where we can collect rights. What we call the direct territories, it's France, Belgium, Canada, French-speaking part of Canada. But as you're probably aware of, Canada is a bilingual country everywhere, even if it's not obvious when you go to Canada. And also Monaco and Andorre and Luxembourg. The main problem that we had is how we can conciliate the assignment of rights by our members to SACD and the assignment of rights by our members to the producer when they sign a production contract. This is one of the main legal issue in that field, which has been settled by different court cases. The most important is to know that the assignment of rights which is made to SACD on the one hand, and the assignment of rights which is made by the authors to the producer on the other hand, have two different aims. An audiovisual author who assign his right to a producers, assign this right in order to give the possibility to the producer to exploit the work commercially. That means to sell the works to the TV channels and to the platforms. When the author assigns his right to SACD, the aim of this assignment of rights is to entrust SACD of the collection of his remuneration. So the two assignments are perfectly compatible, and that's why the system works well. So my presentation aims at dealing with the relation that we have with the online services, such as VOD services or social media, and the practice can be slightly different. We have signed agreements with different platforms for the beginning of the century. The first agreement that we have signed was for the electronic transaction, EST, and transactional VOD. And for this collection, we had to sign an agreement with a producer because the French law provides for the obligation when a work is exploited not collectively but as such. It means when you sell a when you sell a repertoire work by work, normally the producer is in charge of distributing the rights. So we had to sign an agreement, was what we did more than 25 years ago, with the producers who gave us a mandate to collect the remuneration of authors on their behalf. And we have signed agreements with the overwhelming majority of TVOD and EST platform. We collect 1.75% of the price of each work which belong to our repertoire. But this kind of exploitation is not very important because it has been replaced by the pay TV and by the platforms such as Netflix, Disney, or Canal Plus series, which represent the overwhelming majority of the exploitation. And in that specific case, we do not need the agreement of the producers to collect the rights on behalf of our authors. For a very simple reason is that platforms such as Netflix or Disney or Canal Plus do not exploit our repertoire work by work, but they make the work available as a whole. And so there is only one price to access to each VOD service, and that's why we do not need, for a pure legal reason, we do not need a prior agreement of the producers to collect the rights on behalf of our members. Normally, we negotiate the rights not only for the French repertoire, but also for some foreign repertoire. We have agreement with CMOs in Switzerland, in Italy, in Spain, and we also represent works from Belgium and Canada. And so we can authorize the exploitation of the works on these platforms on behalf of these different repertoire. The first agreement that we signed was more than 10 years ago, just 10 years ago, with Canal Plus series, which was the first important platform on the French market, just before Netflix has been launched on the French market. And then we signed an agreement in 2014, in September 2014, just when Netflix was launched on the French market with Netflix. And then we have signed with Amazon, and more recently with Disney in 2021. And we also signed an agreement with Apple TV Plus a few months ago. So normally we cover all the big platforms which are active on the French market. We also sign agreements with smaller platforms because there are countless small VOD platforms on the French market. Some of them are located abroad, and we sometimes have some problems to come to an agreement with these platforms. For example, we had some troubles with Mubi, which is very active on works of cinema, and a very good platform, but which is located in London, and which has some problem to understand the collective management system as it works in France. The most important point, of course, is how we set our tariffs. Our tariffs are set on a very simple basis. It's on the website of SACD. The rate that we collect on the turnover of each platform is 2.5% of the turnover, whatever the origin of the turnover, either the subscription price or advertising revenues, or even some other revenues, which is not very frequent. And it's very important to understand that we take for granted that this percentage that we apply on the turnover already takes into account the fact that we do not represent all the works available on a platform, but only a share of these works. And sometimes we can agree with the platforms of complementary rebate. There are two kinds of rebate. One, to take into account the charge of the platforms for the management of the subscription and subscribers, because obviously they need to have some expenditure to find new subscribers. So we take that spendings into account, and we can make a supplementary rebate. And we also sometimes take into account the fact that we effectively do not represent all the repertoire available on the platform, but this rebate is never proportional to the repertoire that we represent, because we take for granted that we already integrate this rebate in the rate. And the rate, it's the average rate that we collect with the TV channels, and especially with the TV channel which are specialized in series and movie. It's frequently 2.5%. And we consider that the platforms such as Netflix or Disney are in competition with the pay TV. And it's the official advice that has been given by the competition authority in France. The competition is between the pay TV and the platforms, because when you subscribe to Netflix, you can make a choice between the subscription to Netflix and the subscription to Canal+. So it's normal that we apply very similar rates to both activities. It has been rather difficult to make especially the American platform like Netflix or Disney, to explain them the French system of collective management of rights, because as you probably aware of, the American system works in a different way. Authors sign contracts which are ruled by the work made for hire provision, and so the producer is supposed to be assignee of all the rights of the authors, which is not the case in France for the reason I have just explained. And therefore, it's very difficult to make understand to the American platforms that they have not only to buy the works to the producer, but to pay collective management organization as well. They have agreement with the Writers Guild and with the Directors Guild, but in that case, normally it's not the platforms who pays the authors, but the producers who pays residuals, and the system is very different. We were very happy to see that during the strike of the screenwriters in the last few weeks, which came to an end, as you know, because they made an agreement. There were several articles in the special newspaper in Los Angeles to say that the system of the collective management in Europe, and especially in France, works well for the authors, and that the American screenwriters would be very happy to have a system similar to the European system to get a fair and proportional remuneration. It's not so frequent that you can read in an American newspaper that it works better in Europe than in the United States. So I think it's worth to be noticed. In our agreements with the platforms, the main challenge has been to, apart from incite them to pay the royalties, which is of course the most important, but the main challenge has been to explain to the platforms that we need very precise information in order to distribute the monies that we collect. And especially to explain to Netflix, to Disney, and to Amazon that we need the number of views for each work of our repertoire. Initially, they were very reluctant to give this kind of information in 2014, and we had very long and very difficult discussion with them. And finally, we could convince Netflix with an argument, and we can thank the European Union to what all the work that has been done, because in the European Directive of 2014, we are bound by an obligation to be transparent to our members. So we told to Netflix, we have to be transparent to our members. When we distribute monies, we have to explain them why they get 5,000 euros. So we have to communicate the number of viewings, the number of views of each work, because an author cannot understand the level of its remuneration if he doesn't know how many views of his work has been made on the platforms. And so that has been very useful for them, for us to have this directive to convince the American platforms that they have to be transparent and to give the number of views for each work and for each period of exploitation. What is interesting is that we get this information as the producers have many problems to get the same information for the works they sell to the platforms of the number of views. I think that now, at least in France, I don't know in Austria, but in France they can get this information now because the French law has been changed and now it's compulsory. The French law explicitly says that the platforms have to give to the collective management organization the number of views of each work, but it's a modification in the law which has been made in 2021, so it's very recent. We got the number of views before the change of the law, but the producers can only get the number of views since 2021. And it's very interesting to see that how concretely effective can be a European directive in a discussion with a platform in the United States, which is established in the United States. The other challenge that we had is to convince the platform, and we didn't at that stage fully succeed in it, to convince them to pay the same percentage on the advertising revenues, because as you're probably aware of, now Netflix has advertising revenues as well as Disney. And Netflix finally accepted to consider that advertising revenues had to be in the basis of the remuneration. It's a little bit more difficult with Disney, and Disney has been the more reluctant platform in the discussion, because initially they didn't want to give us a number of views of each work, because they considered that it was a business secret, and they were very scary about the risk that if this data was publicly communicated, it could be contrary to their communication, because sometimes a platform says, we have a big success for this work, and when you look at the number of views, it's very different. So they were scary about the risk of a communication, of a public communication of the number of views. Obviously, we treat this kind of information as top secret, and we inform our members that we communicate the number of views of their work, and obviously we don't communicate the number of views of another work to an author which is not concerned by the exploitation of a precise work. But we tell them, do not communicate this number publicly, because it's only for your information. Some of our members, very few of them, publicly communicate the number of views of their work, either because they were very happy to say that they had 1 million of views, or because they were very disappointed to see that they had only 5,000 of views. But we incite them to be as discreet as possible, and the system works well. Another aspect which is very important to notice is that, as you know, there is a directive in Europe on the media service, which gave the possibility to each member state to impose investment obligation to the platforms, even the platforms established in another country than the country concerned. And I think that in France we have the level of obligation in investments and of the number of works, of French-speaking works, that has to be available on the platform, which is the higher level. I don't know how the directive has been transposed in Austria, but this is very helpful for us, because we know that the Netflix, Amazon, and Disney have to invest approximately 300 million euros in French-speaking works for the French market. So, of course, it means that we are sure that we have a minimum level of presence of French-speaking works on the foreign platforms in France. It's very helpful, because it's consistent with the rates that we apply to these platforms. And we have an authority which signs a contract with the platforms to set the level of investment in the French-speaking works, and which impose a level of quotas of number of works of French work which have to be available on the platforms. What is important is to understand that the rate that we apply to the turnover of each VOD platform is not connected to the number of views. The number of views is only used by SACD to distribute the rights. So the distribution is proportional to the number of views of all the works of our repertoire, but we do not set the remuneration according to the number of views, which would be probably very dangerous for us because the number of views can vary from one period to another. And so the price of each views for our members is a result, but it's not the basis to set the remuneration. We apply the same system with the TV channel. We collect a percentage of their turnover or public subsidies if it's a public channel. And then we distribute the monies according to the time of diffusion and the number of minutes diffused, broadcasted, but we do not set the remuneration according to a number of minutes. It's very important to see the difference. We have a remuneration which is really proportional, and it's the system which is in the law, and it's the more effective and protective system. Concerning the VOD and SVOD, it's how the system works. With some other platform, such as Meta or YouTube, it's slightly different because the platform does not work the same way. We have an agreement with YouTube since 2010. They accepted to sign an agreement with us far before the adoption of the Article 17 of the directive, because at that time they were negotiating an agreement with SACEM for the musical works. And we told them, if you sign an agreement with SACEM, there is no reason, as we are along with SACEM for some agreement with TV channel, there is no reason for you not to sign an agreement for audiovisual works that are used on your platform. That's why we could reach an agreement in 2010, which has been renewed 2 times, and which is slightly complicated because probably the share of our repertoire on YouTube is lower than the share of our repertoire on the TV channel or on Netflix or Amazon, as these platforms are not specialized in broadcasting series or cinema or other kind of works like that. So we had to adapt our condition and to set a system of proportional remuneration with a minimum. And sometimes we have to set a tariff slightly different from what I have described before. In the case with Meta, which is more a social media than a broadcaster, and so it was very difficult to agree with Meta on a basis for a proportional remuneration, and we had a very long and complicated work to define the share of our repertoire which is available on the platform, and we finally decided to set a flat fee, evolving in time, and which is supposed to be revised regularly with Meta, but it's very difficult because when you discuss with Netflix or with Disney, they know the audiovisual work, they know what is an audiovisual work, what is the role of a producer, of a director, of a screenwriter. With Meta, it's completely different because they are outside the audiovisual work, and so they do not fully understand the logic of the audiovisual work, of the remuneration of screenwriters and directors. And moreover, there is another problem, is that on social media platform you have two kinds of works. The pre-existing films and series, which are reused on the platforms, and the work which has specifically created for the platforms. You have many humor works which are specifically created for YouTube, sometimes for Meta, and of course for TikTok. And we have to adapt our condition to the difference of the works. TikTok is the challenge for us today. It's very complicated because it's not really the American logic, it's more the Chinese one, and it's very difficult to know who makes the decision in TikTok. Where are the decisions made? It's very difficult, and we have long discussion with TikTok. The main challenge is to set the part of the work of our repertoire which is used on TikTok. It being recalled that there are millions and hundreds of millions of work on TikTok, and apparently they do not disappear. So they add works each day, and the work which are already available do not disappear. TikTok says that they don't know the number of videos which are available at a given moment, which is very surprising, because they say we know that we have this number of new video each month, but we don't know the total number of videos available at a given moment. I'm very skeptical about that. I think that they perfectly know, but they don't want to tell the actual number. And when you look at the level of their turnover in continental Europe, as far as I know, it must be more than 1,400,000,000,000 millions in Europe, apart from UK. And when they give, it's the public figures that we could find, and when they give their turnover, it's very different. So TikTok is a very complicated challenge for us. Well, in conclusion, I would say that as the system is always changing, we have to adapt our condition. But until now, concerning SVOD, subscribe VOD, and free VOD, we are rather satisfied with the agreement that we have signed. It's far more complicated with the social media networks like Meta and TikTok, because it's another word, it's another logic, and it will probably be necessary to renew the agreement every 2 or every 3 years and to rediscuss all the matter with the platform, with the risk that the audiovisual repertoire is very small in the total of videos available, and that's why we are more and more using a system of minimum per work or per subscriber, in order to avoid that the remuneration decrease when the share of the repertoire decrease, because it's a big risk on this kind of platforms to have a very low level of remuneration if the total number of work to which you compare the share of the repertoire increase every month or every day. So that's in the present situation the main challenge. And also the other thing that we have made, which is very concrete and very useful, is that we had a collection of rights each year, then each semester, and now we try to collect and to distribute the right each quarter, so as fast as possible, because of course our members are very they want to be paid very fast, and as most of the time they know the success of the work because there is communication, they ask their right as to get the monies as soon as possible. Okay, I think I have said the main part. Not all what I wanted to say, but the main aspect I wanted to deal with. Thank you.